Attackers win.
Well, a bounce back comes through from M80 as they end up taking the second map in the series, and we came into this one, again, kind of blindfolded, Dust. We were not sure what we would see from, honestly, either team. But M80, we had kind of hyped it up. There was a potential that this map specifically could get Koala warmed up and allow him back into the game, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can kind of start the compositions, right? Of course, this was M80's first time playing the map, so it was therefore their first time showing us anything as far as compositions go. But I feel like when you see what agents they pick, it's like kind of exactly what you would have expected, just based on kind of like the players' histories and the type of play style that M80 likes to play. And I feel like a map like Fracture suits M80. I'm surprised they didn't play this map sooner, to be honest, because it kind of sets up for those aggressive set piece site executes while the defensive is playing guessing games on which place they should aggress and get forced to play retake often and things of that nature. Whereas the guard, they still seem to be trying to stick with this like double controller composition that not many other teams are really trying to do. They did bring the breach back to the fold because they were playing Fade in the past, but in this time they decided to go Sentinel-less, which was also a little bit of a change for them based on what they had done before. So it was a very interesting kind of like pick in that regard. But I mean, M80 just hit the floor running with their composition and just showed no signs of slowing down really at any point in this game.
I mean, Starry, as a controller main yourself, how were you feeling about this double controller comp coming out from the guard?
I typically like the double controller pick, but against M80, I feel like the way just Koala was able to like take that space and run in, I feel like they really needed a Sentinel this time around.
You can see that playing out here on the scoreboard. It's a 13-7 victory in favor of M80. I do agree with you, Dust. It does kind of... He was questioning why we didn't see this pick sooner. They looked pretty strong on the map. It did feel like Koala Noob was able to do exactly what we had framed up coming into the map, which was just kind of exploit the many entry points that you basically have as an aggressive duelist like Koala is. Ends up finishing 22-14 with 7 first bloods. It's just hard to really do much when you have someone basically going off that hard. But at the same point in time, Tex tried to match performance, 19-14. The big thing, though, was, again, the first bloods. We saw multiple rounds where Koala gave them an advantage, and it just felt like, they couldn't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also a situation where I felt like the Cosmic Divide kind of backfired on the guard a couple of times. Like, they tried to use it for some weird trickery in some of their executes, but then they would just get kind of caught. Like in the corner, like I think there was one round, it was like Jonah who tried to play through it, and he got caught by Koala, who was playing up top on the screen in the corner of the Cosmic Divide. So there was a couple of weird interactions like that in general. But yeah, it was just one of those things where, again, I think this map suits M80's playstyle really well. And you got to see that classic combo of Nismo, Koala Noob kind of come back to the fold, right? Kind of play to their strengths and deliver.
Well, another key thing that I'd like to point out that M80 did a lot better this time around was their retakes. Their retakes were looking a lot more cohesive this time around. I love the way they were just getting really aggressive with it. They didn't give the guard time to set up like they usually would. And because of that, they were able to come out on top.
Yeah, looking in that second half, we saw a few instances where it looked like the guard was in decent position and they were getting shut down. And we saw it in the first half as well. It just felt like, in general, M80 was prepared. They were ready for the guard. And even when they weren't, they had heroics. How are you supposed to do anything about that when you have someone who's going that hard in the paint, when you've got Koala Noob literally just taking the team and be like, don't worry about it, guys. I got this. Now, there was still a point there towards the end where we're like, okay, is this going to be the comeback now? You get that huge 1v1 win with VALORANT where we actually thought the game was already over. And then it starts to turn again. We're like, okay, maybe this is where they start to find some momentum, build up some steam. Doesn't end up being the case. It's immediately stomped out by M80 and they close out the second map. Which brings us to the maps discussion. Haven, our third and final map in the series. Dust, I was worried about this coming into this. I feel like this map plays really well to M80.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's similar to Fracture, where because it's a 3-site map and because defenses have to sometimes be forced to play for a retake, it sets up for M80 to go for their faster pace attacking plays to get early site control and then just pay out a post plant from there. I mean, they've been dominant on it this year. They played it 5 times. They've won it 4 of those times. And in 3 of those 4 wins, they didn't even allow their opponent more than like 5 or 6 rounds. Their attacking side has been 7 rounds or better on average on this map coming up for Haven. So it certainly suits well for M80, particularly because the guard, on the other hand, have had mixed results this year on this map, and they've only played it twice. And even at the end of last year with their core 4, it really was a map that they were losing quite often, even to teams that were kind of considered ranked well below them, if you want to go that way. So I do fear a little bit for the guard in that regard, considering the history on Haven.
But if I'm not mistaken, according to the graphic, the guard will be starting on the attacking side and M80 will be starting on defense, which if that's the case, M80's attacking side has really been their bread and butter. I feel like that's where they really shine, because that's what we were talking about, that ability of Koala Noob to kind of exploit all of the many entry points. And we've seen that throughout both the regular season and here as well in the mid-season face-off.
I will say this, though. The one time they did start defense on this map, they got a 12-0 shutout in Disguise. So it's not like they can't play defense on Haven. So I'm just kind of throwing that one out there, but the sample size is small.
I don't know. I feel like the guard does really well playing the map really slowly on attack, taking a lot of map control. And I feel like as long as they don't run into Koala Noob's op and they just kind of run the other direction and able to set up for their post plan, I feel like they'll be able to get a better handle on the map.
And it's important to frame this out, too. It's not like the guard is bad on the map. They just haven't really played it all that much. They played it once during this first split. It was a game against Oxygen that goes 12-14 in favor of Oxygen, mind you. That was actually their win. The only other time we've seen them play it this year was in the Ludwig Tarek Invitational. And that was a completely different showing. It was a 13-1 bloodbath. They absolutely obliterated TSM.
Yeah, I think my concern with the guard on Haven just goes further back than that. Like, just thinking of the history of this core four. Again, remember, this team has kept the same roster with the exception of Tex all throughout all of 2022, 2 rounds of VCT and so on and so forth. And this map, they just never really figured out, I feel like, last year. It was always kind of a constant thorn in their side, particularly like the last 6 months of last year. And so that's kind of where I'm pulling from. Whereas with M80, they don't really have that past, you know, that they're kind of a mixture team. And all we've seen from them really this year has been success, other than the loss to Moist, which was a fairly tight game here in the mid-season face-off. So
yeah.
You definitely favor them, in my opinion. But yeah, like Starry was saying, I mean, the guard are certainly a very tactical team that are capable of learning and figuring out things and then eventually implementing them to be successful. So it's not like I'm counting the guard completely out either.
Sure, and again, the way we're really set this up is it's Koala Noob that's probably going to be the X factor for M80. So, Dustin, your opinion, who's the person on the other side that has to stop Koala Noob from picking up steam? Because normally when we talk about duelists, we talk about a one-to-one relationship, but really that's not how it typically goes. We don't always see a clash of the Jets necessarily. In my opinion, it's potentially maybe Net who's going to be the one trying to prevent the flank play from coming through, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I think Net being a side anchor as a Sentinel is definitely going to be pretty huge in those situations where you are going to see times where he's just going to get dashed at by Koala with supporting utility also coming at him. He's going to have to make the right call on whether to try to hold his ground and fight it off or whether to play for retake and fend it. Same with Valen by using his controller utility. It's going to be kind of a similar situation. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at on how they work through that motion.
I also think that Net will play a huge part because I've seen him do his lurks in Pearl, and every time he would be able to kind of secure his side of the map, it gave the guard a chance to rotate to the other side. I feel like if Net gets a good lurk in, able to find out where Koala Noob is playing, they can kind of shut down Koala Noob completely by completely avoiding him and forcing him to play retake.
Yeah,
it's definitely going to be difficult.
No, I just like Starry's point about Net because this is a map exactly like she's talking about where particularly B site is where like the attacking lurker can be there to cut off rotations or to give you B as like a fallback plan if your initial actions at Garage or at A lobby aren't really panning out. They can give you that foothold to kind of pivot to the other side of the map. And Net really does get often kind of overlooked on this team just because of how flashy like Tex has been or how big Trent's been for so long now, basically. I feel like Net kind of gets overlooked. I think a lot of that is also because of how prevalent the chamber meta was, and Net was really just never that guy. But now that we're back to like a more traditional Sentinel regard, that's when you see guys like Net, like Dapper, and so on kind of come back into the fold and be able to play to their strengths. And I think Net could be huge here defensively to try to slow Koala down.
Well, we'll see if that ends up being the case. It is a third and final map. We hoped we'd get a BO3 because the Week 5 matchup between these teams left a lot to be desired. We do make it to that third map in somewhat interesting fashion after seeing Pearl and Fracture go different directions for both M80 and the Guard. Now we head to Haven. Our casters are standing by. It's Tanner Metro and I hold Shift. It's Tanner Shift?
Ooh. I am actually a fan of, and maybe I should be saving this one for off camera, but I hold Metro. I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of that one, Shift.
Dude, my name is like the easiest to put into ship names because it's just, you just take I hold and then part of the name and it works. So good combo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy.
Yeah, so Bach, I think, wanted to avoid that one. What they didn't avoid was kind of the hard-hitting questions into this map 3. It's a map that recent times looks shaky for both of these teams. A loss, I guess we'll say, for both of these teams. But what we do know is, much like we saw in Fracture and much like we see every single game from M80, it's typically Noob, the spearhead for this squad. And to receive them, it is going to be, I think, much like the desk said, net. And if not net, Trent. But none of that will matter because it's going to be Noob to receive to get us started here. And I'm pretty sure that we are in for mirror composition. So it really does come down to, you know, who's dancing the dance better.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that both Starry and Dust really hit on net, because the point that, you know, I think was most influential towards M80 losing this map recently was the fact that it was Proto who was pulling off a lot of those flanks, and also the one kind of stopping Noob in certain regards. Proto, when he was asked to be a part of a First Blood, won every single engagement he was in for First Bloods on this map when they had played in the upper semifinals. So I think that's a really strong shout, and that's what caused M80 a couple of headaches, in particular on their offensive start, as they were able to get a lot of plants off, but they weren't able to hold those post plants early. So those are going to be kind of the asks when we get over to the offensive side. But for now, it is all about trying to see if net can start to get away with a lot of map control here for the guard and possibly kind of keep M80 contained behind a pretty advanced line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and they're ready for something like that, right? A handful of util Killjoy gadgets out towards this B site. Meanwhile, Tex can work his way all the way up the platform. Xander put in a rough spot. He's still here to try and fight, but the crunch finally pays off. Jonah P will find the first. Shock darts to try and force John Cutie. I mean, lots of util used just to get John Cutie disconnected from the play.
Yeah, I really like that a lot because Tex is holding a close angle with a frenzy. So this could be very dangerous. And the fault line does connect, though. M80 trying to make their play forward. But yeah, trade's looking solid, and the last shock dart will land. So good breakdown, good execution, and even better isolation once the guard got on the site, in my mind.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to see. If Tex is going to be on his front foot, usually somebody's going to be there to help him out. And, I mean, missed the first kill, also got hit by the fault line. Valen there to bail him out, and the rest of the team, with what util they did have left, because they chucked a whole bunch at John Cutie.
Yeah.
They toss out at the rest of the team. They clean that one up. They do so pretty convincing, and that's a great place to start here for the guard. As we said, both of these teams coming off losses here. They want to right that wrong.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and I think it is going to be a lot of battle here as far as early map control is concerned, because we know M80 likes to play a bit aggressive. You know, they're going to try to at least vie for this position deep in towards A lobby, which they're already kind of getting away with. There is an alarm bot to keep them somewhat honest, and this is what you talk about. Net lurking through mid. That's just going to be able to give 66% of the map essentially over to the guard. Aldrin will see a vacant C site. And now M80 are going to have to try to retake from behind the play with Classics. And if you don't take it by my candor, the possibility of that happening feels a little bit pressed.
Yeah, it's probably the worst buy we've seen in a second round from any team. Typically, we do see a couple of sheriffs, but wanting to make sure that they can come into round 3. When it does come down, I mean, we heard from the games yesterday just how, I think everybody feels this way, how momentum-based this game is. I would believe it was Penny who was talking about it. You can't afford to give up a few rounds, and we've seen both of these teams do that, and rounds like this will really shift things in a team's favor. It does not seem, though, that M80 are going to be able to do much more than finding that kill onto net out towards mid. Tex going alt hunting here, trying to find some orbs in way of kills, and EU is going to be the next one up. Afraid of the Classic, though. Now we'll finally take that duel, and it's Valen to eventually work towards the from the shadows. But a second round picked up, a modest round again from M80. So this round 3 will be the first real show of force.
Yeah, and this will be where we're really going to start to see how much commitment M80 wants to try to push on the exteriors of the map. I mean, you assume that when you've got things like a breach, you're probably always going to throw some sort of a fault line early just to try to get that map control. But interestingly enough, Nisba's going to sit in towards mid and actually be the defender alongside the sentry turret of Garage and the alarm bot at B. While this long hit at A is only going to be sufficed by, you would think, EU's recon dart, and they're going to get the angle for free, but the guard are all focused on towards the C site, and this is just heavy numbers. Xander in the corner will get the first, though, and there are defenders to still deal with this.
Yeah, a great read. The same pistol round, Strat the crunch to come through from the guard, but M80, everybody here on this side of the map, ready to receive said play. Xander goes undetected, so does John. And this one, seemingly wraps us far as the guard back away from it and try and figure out how to play the rest of this map when they have zero control of it.
Yeah, the only way that you get back in this round is if you get a clean one shot here onto EU. If he goes 1 for 1 though, defense is in a very critical position, and yeah, he's going to probably do maybe even more than that. Aldrun will try to confirm if there's any other further push up, and the guard are now completely stuck in mid, maybe just left to try to save these rifles for a following round.
And I like that from EU. Spotted players here knows that both are probably in the general area. Not going to give them the 1v2 just yet. Backs away. Plays a different angle here. Let's see if the results are the same as if he was playing on that front foot.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I think, just to kind of look at how M80 got that A lobby control in the first place. It was just shoulder peeks and walking up long. Not any, I don't think, really any utility at all spent to get the angle. So that's something that if continues to happen, the guard are going to have a new problem that they need to try to work on if they're going to consider to, or at least initially consider the C site more than any other part of the map. Because if you give away that A lobby, this lurk attempt from net that we're probably going to keep our eye on pretty heavily throughout this first half will be a little bit more hard-pressed to find much success. So I'd be curious to see if the guard tries something a little bit different here to try to deny this play through A long. But of course, now they're aware of if EU's walking all the way to A lobby and finding a kill off the flank like that.
Yeah, and a round 2 for M80, you are very, very happy to walk away from that round the way that you did. You leave 2 rifles in the hands of the guard, sure, but that was a round that had, it was one of those kind of juiced up bonuses with a Vandal, a Bulldog. I believe there was another rifle that in the hands of Tex who eventually went onto the site. So walking away from that one flawlessly, you didn't do the economic damage because there is still a full buy here for the guard, but you feel really good about your economy alone.
Yeah, that exactly. Boosting the pockets is always fun, especially early in this. Here we go. Here's that play for the guard, looking to get aggressive over towards A long. It's the same setup for M80. A little bit of cross support from Nismo as he gets the fault line into play, but ultimately the guard have been able to not just secure A long, but look at the forward position from Net in his utility on top of that. Some security that there's no one push up towards C long. Garage was never threatened because the Sentry Turk's there to keep it honest, and the Shock Dart on the way in towards B also deletes the alarm bot for M80. So the defense now outside of the zone with not a lot that could probably get them in unless they were able to win out some gunfights through smoke.
Hey, I mean, a couple of flashes, and it looked like for a second Nismo wanted to push on through. He just goes for a bit of chip damage, which they do find onto Tex. He's yet to give up his position, though. Fault line back sight. Valen dealt with that. Smoke's off the table, but the trades are there, and it's 2 in favor of Tex as he drops down, gives up his position with 51 HP. Oh, the dash. He catches the wall, and he can't sneak out safely as Jonah will look to hold the line here with 1 HP. A couple of players at his back, and Nismo slowly working his way around. Net just gets lucky once more. The shots are good through the smoke, but now they have to try and do it again, and it's Trent to do it. A couple of Bulldog shots will take a bite out of John, and Nismo will look to get the spike all the way. John goes half, and Nismo cannot quite do it. Net to stunt it all, and the guard to 3.
Dude. Oh my goodness. That had to have been a mustachio's hair away from being diffused. And how key some of these eliminations were. The fact that Tex gets 2 up top is part of it, but the opening smoke, and then, yeah, that was as close as you could possibly get without securing the defuse. A little bit of heartbreak early for M80, but their attempt on the retake, very much so noted on both sides, I would say. As we get into round 5, knives are earned for Tech, but it's the operator for Koala for the first time, and an early Hunter's Fury for EU. That's sent all the way down towards C long, and not a lot of inspiration for why that may have happened. The cross back over towards mid, but the knives are reaping things apart through the connector.
I mean, back and forth from head to head, Tex collecting skulls, and Koala. I mean, Koala left with 5 players still in front of him. He's only got an operator who'll take down the first, but now the hunt starts for the guard, and I don't know who's the prey or who's the predator here as Koala takes 2 lives with him. We'll have to continue to fight his way on out. There's no safe angle, but damage done here.
Koala Noob's like, get off me, child's play! Like, it's who you think you're chasing here? It's too funny, man. So Koala still a force. No one was surprised, especially after last map, but the guard, little quick transition in towards B works out pretty nicely. And I'm kind of still wondering what caused EU to feel so headstrong about trying to throw that Hunter's Fury through C-Long early, especially considering there wasn't really like a follow-up play where a defender was trying to use that lane as like an aggressive flank or anything like that. It just felt like a blind counter or so. And it was the knives that just connected a little bit too much, I would say. 3 kills for Tex changed things around, and now it's just the operator that's held on to for M80 in the following.
And they've done a good job avoiding this one. Koala hasn't quite been able to find those first bloods in way of the operator. He can look to play a bit solo in this round. He's got knives on the other side of a kill. Nismo, though, can help him out. EU, the one stunned up out towards A long. And quickly, Xander is here to try and help bolster up the defense on the A site. Little do they know, it's 5 players on the other side of the lockdown, also readied up by Net.
Yeah, these nanoswarms suggest that the guard is going to try to execute here pretty quickly. M80 flooding on in. The nanoswarm's not denying this. The hit's on.
Wow. Yeah, they're not giving this one up just yet. Xander finds the first, but he's immediately dealt with. That op shot goes wide as EU gets back another. I mean, M80 in full force here with just the upgraded pistols. They make this one look so much more doable. As Valen now needs to try and teleport to safety. He does so successfully. He's up against the Sheriff of John Cutie on the other side. And that spike is in hand. But the round might be out of reach. No, John can't find it. Valen does, and the guard finds 5.
Ooh, that was another one that M80 had a really solid look at. And a lot of that is just the fact they get into the site, they commit before the nanostorms even touch down, let alone start to encompass the entirety of that choke point. So that leads to a couple of unbelievable one-taps. Most importantly was the one on the Texas. He was pushing in towards B-Link. A little break your wrist snapper with that headshot onto him, and the kills nearly end up enough to allow M80 back in for a thrifty, but a very punishing round nonetheless. Not that it makes ultimately too much difference, as the guard have obviously, based on that timeline, done very well in these first 7 rounds. Bank accounts are good, but M80 off the full purchase also have a couple of ultimates that could inspire some plays.
Sometimes, too, to inspire yourself, to get some confidence, you need a round like that, win or lose from an 80, where you can say, guys, we are the better team. We just went crazy with Sheriffs alone, right? We can beat them. Let's find that confidence again. So that very well could have been enough for M80 to start to string it together. I forgot what I was even saying. I got whiplash there from that kill from Trent.
Dude, that's pain if you're John Cutie. You get a perfect health fault line from Nismo. You have Net on the exit, and Trent is just watching through a pixel and connects on the head. Oh, that's pain. And now the entire threat of a Sentinel's off the table, so the guard have time to consider, where was John set up? Do we want to try to maybe use this as a chance to get through Garage, maybe eventually execute to something like C or B? Definitely an option, as M80 are going to try to triple stack largely over towards the A side of the map, and the smokes will try to get some players looking at least into Garage for now.
30 seconds left.
No util to stall, even if it was up. John Cutie is not.
Huge.
So this space taken, spike to be planted, but yeah, Tex dealt with. That's one of the extremities that the attackers wanted to try and keep control of here in the post plant. It's been given up.
The sentry turret will be first contact if anyone tries to push through this Garage side. So this is also a difficult prospect as far as breaking down this post plant. Although EU's going to be right around the corner from this lockdown, he would have to go huge.
I mean, it might only take 1 bullet, though. He does not have to be perfect. He just has to be crazy. And it looks like he wants to do that. Nismo finds 1. EU out for 2, make it 3 of his own. The lockdown gone. And this round right behind it, a huge round. The full house between the initiators here of M80, and they're back on the board.
Yeah, that was a required double from EU. That's the only way you get that post plant broken down. You have to get the kill on the players contesting Garage, and you have to delete the lockdown. Otherwise, the clock may have won the round for the guard just based off of the activation of the lockdown in play. So talk about a hero moment. Nismo able to assist with a long-range shot towards B window. That is exquisite if you're M80. Tough gunfights across the board, but all of them come out their way. And a key post plant breakdown, and a chance to try to keep this half a little bit more salvageable as we head into round number 8. Full purchase, but a potpourri of ultimates available here, not just for M80, but there's a Hunter's Fury on the other side for Trent as well.
The guard going to try and right their wrongs. Out toward B site once more. 1 smoke down. Recon bolt out. This time John Cutie does have the util. Tex gonna dash right past and find the kill, catching him off guard.
Wow. These are just so clean, brother. I mean, what do you want to say about it? The flank play is going to be held honest by the alarm bot. Got Net just kind of watching, make sure no one comes through a lobby. And as far as a retake is concerned, there are no substantial tools to use to break this back open unless you try to commit a blind Hunter's Fury. But I don't see that as being all that plausible in a 3v5, considering what this setup looks like for the guard.
Oof. Tex gonna give himself up. EU makes good on that information. We'll find the kill, but 2 rifles and an operator. And knives available for Koala, but as the time ticks away, it seems M80 just want to hang on to what they've got.
Yeah, that's just a great opening from the guard again. And it's weird to see how this half has kind of turned away from the guard, putting a lot of focus towards C-Long, trying to get into C pretty quickly. Maybe a bit of a breakdown as far as what they thought they were watching versus what they actually were, because there were a couple of the heroes inside of the C side a handful of times from M80 kind of stopping those plays. And then the play over towards A, you know, it was successful, but it was very heavily tested by pistols from M80. And really the only convincing rounds that we've seen as far as plants and holds have come through this B site. So maybe it's one of those instances where the guard are looking at this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type things. Instead of playing Net on a lurk, you just have him watch flanks, let the success from the front still kind of be your cause for success. But, you know, it is a bit puzzling, I think, to see the guard kind of not necessarily give up on the outside options, but just prefer to play down the middle of the map over the last handful. And you'd have to think in this timeout, M80 are starting to conversate about what exactly want to do to be a little bit more restrictive towards these B plants that are coming off so freely.
I also want to make note, because I think because we were spectating Jonah P right there at the end, we got to see it. So shout out to the observers. But he took that fight, didn't win it, took a little bit of damage, jumped away. As he left, he pinged both the position of the turret inside garage and the nano swarm that John Cutie has been setting up in that position again. So we'll see if anything changes in way of the Killjoy setup. It looks like this round John might lean out towards A, but could also just be working his way, you know, through B into C. But just heads up, right? Hey, if this round is over, we're going to win it, sure, but what more can we get? And he just gets that setup in his eyes and can call that out to the team.
Yeah, that's his really strong point. And looks like that will be a rotation back over to this kind of similar setup that we've seen from him. But once again, M80 are going to go back to what they had been trying to do in the first handful of rounds, which is get this A long control. The thing is, it's all pretty much hinged upon, does Qualinoob get an opportunity with the scope, and that opening smoke will deny it completely. Although let's not be, you know, too wary of this, because Qualinoob is no stranger to playing forward off this angle with just a little bit of help from a recon bolt. So still possible point of contact between both of our jets.
Oh, and that Hunter's Fury actually fishes him out, but he thought he dashed away towards lobby. Instead, he dashed as close. The depth perception just not there for Koala, and he loses his life for it.
Wow. I was right there. I thought the same that Qualinoob saw.
Me too.
I thought it was, he moved all the way back towards lobby. But that's a huge pickup for EU. A little bit stuck here. Does not have an exit strategy, but there are defenders behind him to layer this A defense.
Yeah, rotations here. Oh, and lockdown expended. You don't have to commit out towards C or B, but with 50 seconds, I mean, you could do so much here for the guard.
The thing is that lockdown allows John to get back into range of his utility here at C, so it's not going to find value in terms of being able to lock anyone in place, but it does allow at least the nanostorms to possibly come into play. Not fully going to work out, but now a denial of the exit as John's able to find another, getting us to a 2v3.
And Xander canceled that from the shadows. He was pulling up on a couple of members. Now one used of their own. It's Valen to back away out towards long with the rest of the team. And smoke down on the spike, 20 seconds away from the next one. John Cutie looking to find some of that utility. Nothing there, though. Hunter's Fury instead to be expended, and expecting somebody to push up close, but not the case. No shots landed. That smoke going to dissipate, though, and I don't think they have another one to work with. John Cutie, the last one standing here. Shock darts, they go wide, but they do just enough to keep him off, and John will head for the hills.
Yeah, it's a good idea from M80, but ultimately it's just a little bit more, you know, Jimmy on the spot there is the guard, able to get there real quick and make the call on the rotation very rapidly to stay away from A and just go all the way through to help out your lurker or Jonah P, who had already moved so far forward up C long at that point. So yeah, good proactivity coming out. And yeah, this is a look at it once again where it just felt like we all saw Tex dash in towards lobby again, but nope, he went close towards bricks. Qualinoob caught by surprise, and at that point, the trades led to good numbers and, again, good reads and good decision-making for the guard. So, off the timeout, not much really changing for M80 outside of the attempt to play through A long, and now this may be a gut check call with knives to go towards B window, which would be bold.
Get out of my way!
Not a solo endeavor, though. Good shock dart out towards mid, looking to deal with the utility there. This turret also dealt with. Do they expect Koala to start creeping on up? Net is usually the one to try and collect, but this time they trade some damage and back away from it. Stuns there. EU does not get affected, but he still will fall. And the A site seemingly under fire, but they're headed the opposite direction with the spike.
This is just prime action from the guard. Something we seem to do so often where, look at us, we're all heavy-handed over towards A, but this is just getting a forward member into position. But the knives are actually out for Koala Noob as well. He goes high, finds a key pick, but
Last player standing.
Net will actually take the round into his own hands as a little anime battle in through mid tilts back to the guard's favor, leaving John by himself for the 1v3.
Yeah, John untouched, though. Comes into this one with light shield, still full HP. Goes with the first, and yeah, 3 still on the opposite side. It's a little less than desirable to try and work your way back into this one when you're on the wrong side of the map. And so he's just going to clear his way to safety. It'll be John forced to save once more. I mean, the guard just continue to find ways to force the hand of M80, and a really, not only a strong sell from the utility, but also Net finding 2 kills. Jonah P getting a little crazy, flashing deep, really selling this fake. And by the time that it was sniffed out, because Koala went up and over the top and saw nobody on the site, and that's when Net picked up those 2 kills and just made this one unwinnable.
Yep, it's, again, just good map control, good stretch and presence on just about, it feels like all over the map at once if you're the guard. And M80 are now, all of a sudden, we can throw the label on it, they're in trouble. 2-8 down, and it just still feels like at a certain point that the guard are able to get to sites with not as much contest as we're used to seeing from M80. Especially like when you look at that Moguls game that they played in the upper semis, like M80 were really trying to bring it to Moguls, and that really hasn't necessarily been the case in the same fashion here in this matchup. So you're into what is going to be a quasi half-buy situation. There is probably enough economy here if there is a loss to be able to full purchase into round 12, but it just never really feels like M80 are at full force at the moment. And Koala Noob on an operator, you kind of maybe look to him to be the difference maker in a round where there's still stingers involved.
Yeah, Koala really has to be the difference maker, and he knows it. Bold in this push out towards the lobby of the A site. A smoke to allow him to take this space, and 3 players aggressively pushed up as well. So things go bad. They'll be able to trade him out, but things are starting to go good here for M80.
Yeah, and that's just that good outside extremity play coming through as well, where it's just get Koala Noob in a position to take over one side of the map single-handedly. But the interesting thing about this is that M80 have 3 total members stacked in lobby at the moment, which leaves C wide open, with no one even in a position to take a look to see how many members for the guard are even here. This is all about playing post-plant retake if you're M80, and they don't even have any ultimates to do this. So you're going to have to get the fault line recharged and hope that some of these flashes hit, or maybe that Koala Noob can make this C long play a bit more safe and keep the guard trapped on site to make sure that utility is even more valuable.
And now they know, right? The guard have to do something desperate here, or else they'll just be overrun by the numbers. As Trent starts to work his way out towards mid, 2 still remain on the side, that being VALORANT and Jonah B, and one that's been dealt with. Turns out players in the smoke, and it's all up to Trent, who's going to try and play linchpin in a 1v5. A little low on time, though. 2 kills come through, 2 more swing, and unfortunately splitting the uprights there as Xander sits him down, and M80 on an awkward buy show signs of life.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes off of the X Factor. Koala Noob gets freed up to make a long route through A long, gets one off of the cross in towards lobby, follows up, takes another one down in spawn. It forces the guard to have to play on site, and that's where that basic utility is really going to shine. So great stuff from M80 getting the breakdown that they needed. A lot of assistance out of Koala Noob to make the play happen in the first place. And now we get into round 12. Full purchase finally going to be here. Although EU's having a little bit of a trouble affording a full weapon, and Xander will only have light armor, but you've got a Rolling Thunder at the ready for the defense, and that is the only ultimate in play, and likely the only one we're going to see, unless Net gets a couple of kills.
Deleted.
Not the killjoy you were hoping for to find the kills if you were the guard. Instead, it's John Cutie. Koala finds one of his own, able to back away safely in a very similar situation where the guard are down players. M80 bolstered up heavy out towards the C site in way of defense, and Koala Noob is doing Koala Noob things. Trent down to 5 HP. So if there's any clutch factor, he doesn't have the health for it. And look at that. Koala lines him up, takes him down, and M80 finally go boom here in the last round of the half.
Okay, guys, let him keep his KD. Come on. Oh my goodness, dude. That is unbelievable. The sheet's flawless, and now I think we can officially say Koala Noob has come completely unhinged, bro. I mean, that is some next level jet hopping coming out. And the collat on top is just icing on the cake at this point. Maybe even ice cream after the cake, because he's been taken over when the M80 needed him the most, because those last 2 rounds were must-win rounds in my mind for M80, just to kind of cauterize the bleeding, try to get the guard to think a little bit more, because a lot of their success through mid-map was open and largely came very quickly. But now all of a sudden, the sniper rifle gameplay may be a difference maker as Koala Noob gets to 12-6.
Heavy-handed out towards C for the guard as they start their defense, and same response out towards mid. All 5 players stacked up this way for M80. You know, although down 4 to 8 here, starting their attack, seeing Koala start to pop off there at the end usually means good things, as he's going to be on the front foot for this team, and they don't want to stop at this B site. Want to get aggressive into the link. Xander will plant for this A-link position, and that's the only player here. Slowly but surely, we got the rotates coming, but Allen's a second away.
Yeah. This is, ooh, tall ass, but that's a pretty key first elimination to keep Koala Noob kind of out of your defensive spawn. And there's a full retake coming in over to the backside of windows. So M80 are a little bit pinned up in sort of the site. It just comes down to, can they get the kills needed to kind of stave this off, and the first 2 are good.
Yeah, utility usually the name of the game for the guard. So what does John try to do? Run him down and catch Trent with util in hand. Finally, Valen will be dealt with. Net gonna start to work his way back through the fight. Unfortunately, he's out of time, out of space, out of HP, out of resources. And M80 will pick up the pistol.
Yeah, really nice stuff from M80. Just brute force right down mid. Like you kind of mentioned, catch the guard trying to pull utility. The initial idea was supposed to be Koala Noob will catch someone on rotation out of A. But when that's shut down, the guard with that long flank start to see maybe kind of daylight there and breaking down the post plant. But yeah, the gunfights from inside the site go the way of M80. And now they can go into some rifles and SMGs. 3 rounds in a row as well here for M80. So the opportunity to kind of curb the conversation point the guard were running away with this is at hand. And interestingly enough, the guard are not really going to full stack for anything. A heavy-handed approach towards C, but that recon bolt and the rest of the utility that could be sent for the guard here out of Trent's back pocket may lead them to try to make a move over towards A, and that's exactly the case, as Net will also push through C-Long, helping this defense make the decision to come to A.
And we saw M80 do damage to the buy like this. We'll see if the guard can do the same. Koala to make sure it's not Tex to do said damage. And actually, no, buddy. It's all up to Net, who was working his way across the map. This guy's waiting for me, and well, the rest of the guards say, nope, we're going to go before you. Net, the last one to fall. Sheets flawless for M80 as they continue to piece it together. And I mean, look at that economy. 6,800 credits on John right now. We could very easily see a round 3 attacking up from Koala.
Oh, absolutely. With the way he's playing, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to prefer that as well, by the way. Okay. Key round here, and a true bonus almost in full for M80. A couple extra rifles to help make this offense a bit more substantial in firepower. But the guard, heavy hand, look how much they're focusing towards mid. It's just a sentry turret to guard C and a little shoulder out of Trent looking over towards A, and the guard are going to get what they want here. M80 are kind of going right on in towards the teeth of this entire setup from Net.
Yeah, the shock dart did not land, though, on the utility here at B. So Alarm Bot still reveals. Nano Swarm buys some time. Xander gonna work his way into the plant, teleporting into the Nano Swarm, pushing through, though. Beautiful stun there by Jonah P. Tex will collect another one out towards mid as Xander fights back for one of their own. Shock darts for damage. Smoke is out. Koala Noob ready for it, though. The TP red. But now it's all up to EU. There's 3 players on the other side, and he does not get one. The guard, they get rifles in their hand. They find themselves another tally in the win call.
Yeah, I'd be willing to wager that M80 may not have figured that the guard was going to be so quick to get back into the mix here off of the early hit towards B. But yeah, the guard just kind of trusts a sentry turret at C and then just a little bit of utility and information checking off shoulders from Trent to keep the outside safe, taking a more of the gambled approach of, all right, they're on SMGs. We more often than not see those hits go towards B, so let's kind of stack our utility here. But like you mentioned, not a lot of clearance from M80 on their utility of own to try to deal with those setups out of Net's Killjoy utility. So a clean round from the guard. It actually puts M80 in a position to not be able to fully forward, or at least commit decision-wise to get in towards full armor again. So they'll be on just the 25 apiece. And it's a From the Shadows, the only difference maker outside of Koala Noob, also having the operator, like you called, for early flex factor for him to kind of maybe get a heat check involved.
Yeah, around late, but better late than never. I mean, very non-committal, though, RM80 here. Usually it's wherever Koala can find value, that's where we'll go, and he gets him out towards C long, but look at that spike. The guard even know, right? If Koala's here, they're probably looking to hit this one, but still no commitment.
Yeah. I like this from M80, though. Just kind of feel things out. Force a little bit of doubt out of the guard. Force a little bit of that extra utility out. And how about this? Qualidubs actually gets a read on the net, trying to once again pull off that lurk through mid. So now the guard are in completely dire straits. From the Shadows to get called in. Not a lot seen in towards A, and that may be enough for the green light to come out and the floodgates to open as M80 hit their approach.
And they'll have to clear out short, though. Two defenders, two of the three that are remaining here. Aftershock comes through, teleport to safety. Frank can try and keep his Omen alive.
One enemy remaining.
John, Cutie, and Nismo completely deny any opportunity there, and M80 do this one. Well, off the back end, I have a couple of kills from Koala Noob, but most importantly, they bring us within two.
Yeah, I really like that approach a lot from M80 to the first blood. Just kind of keep the guard a little bit antsy, make them feel the pressure of having to try to guard 3 spike sites, in which not really anyone was watching over towards B, but you kind of have to because M80's hit B a lot here. So you force out things like the Owl Drone. You're able to catch a couple of players on the way in. Yeah, really clean stuff from M80. And now the guard are just left to a Hero Guardian and Sheriff with potentially knives for Tex. They're going to commit to try to get to the orb. The recon won't allow that to happen, but no. Quality does at least tally a kill as Tex gets into the fray with the knives out.
Yeah, knives secured, sure, but the player that was trying to keep Tex alive dies for said knives. So we'll see if they can do anything aggressive. 3 players just on the other side of the dark cover. Oh, man, and Koala's just ready for it. Almost spots the jet here as the shots go wide. Paranoia fault line heaps of utility tossed out this way, but M80 are gonna make sure that Koala gets out safely. They send a few players back to help him fight forward, and out towards mid they go.
Yeah, it's a bit of a miss, though, from the guard. You throw out the Paranoia, the fault line. Neither of it connects. Doesn't get Tex involved with the kills, but now Net, yeah, I was about to say he's by himself with the Guardian. He'd be hard-pressed to tap through all of that, and that will lead to the plant. The guard with knives could still break this open. Just comes down to using the flashes from Joe P this time instead of the fault line.
Remaining.
Oof. The classic, the 1v5. Unfortunately, nothing there. Ashit's flawless again for M80 as they continue to creep their way back into this game. And it makes you wonder, when do we get that guard timeout, right? When do they take a second to try and figure out how to deal with this M80 attack that the desk lined it up? And I was thinking mostly for defense, avoid Koala Noob. It gets a whole lot harder to avoid them when M80 are attacking.
Yeah, it's like Dust had pointed out, the 5 times that M80 have played this map in the split that we're in, 4 of them started on attack. So, you know, they're getting the side that they're finding the most amount of success with more often. You can see things like this start to unfold, and yeah, it gets really scary for the guard, I think, at a certain level. We've got lockdowns in this round for both sides, though, that you would have to figure may be a difference maker in this one. Knives available for Koala Noob if the operator does not hit true, but Tex is kind of doing the same thing over the top, and oh, the timing allows the first blood to come through for the guard this time.
Nanoswarm will stall the push behind this drone, but it is only Net on this side of the map. It's all that utility now dealt with. A long-range fault line out from Jonah P. Slows things down once more, but one lone defender.
There's just so much trust that Net can lock down a side of the site. This is exactly what Starry was saying, is Net by himself on this Killjoy can be a huge force to deal with, and he's just got a Nanostorm to keep him safe. So this is, again, kind of giving up pretty much the entirety of the site in order to play retake.
Wow.
Down's also in, but the aftershock will immediately deny it.
Yeah, I mean, he's also got to get a couple of shots into it, and there it is.
Oh.
Yeah, completely gone there. Nismo puts his life on the line, but backs away, successful in his endeavors. Paranoia to slow things down for both sides for now. We're locked down on the opposite end in this 3v5. I mean, it's just way more digestible now. Should deny for a moment. A few safe spots back sight, but that spike continues to tick away as the smokes dissipate. Tex will hold the angle. Nano swarms you. Xander, the smoke of his own. Gonna try and stop something on the back lines, but Hex good for 3 kills on the round. John Cutie and Nismo now left with everything to do. A couple of cloud bursts down will deny the sight lines. John Cutie just has to spam and get lucky. He has to hope, he has to pray, and in the 1v1, he does it! No, he doesn't.
Oh my goodness, not again, dude. Not again if you're M80. They were a sliver away from sticking a diffuser earlier and getting it. And now it's just barely over the line for the diffuse to come through. Maybe a little bit of decision making of John saying, okay, oh, I got a pistol. Nope, I can vandal. Nope, I've got a pistol. And the diffuse does come through just before the triple. Oh, it's a heartbreaking and key round because that's the difference of 10-8 and 9-9 with eco considerations that the knives are out and M80 are looking to go forward very, very rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, a round win, but the Guard have nothing to buy here in this one. And yeah, that 9-9 could have been a 10-9 after this round in favor of M80, but heroics and sticking that spike there. John Cutie just not quick enough on the trigger. Drone to try and clear things out. Valen first up. They're investing into this one, though. Rolling Thunder for Rolling Thunder. Back and forth we go. The knives really the only accurate weapon here as EU goes undetected. A shock dart at his feet will force his hand. But he takes 2 kills with it. Meanwhile, Koala and Nismo clean up the players on site. And Trent, not long for this world, meets the same fate as his teammates. And there is that 9th round finally making its way for M80.
That was a key set of reaction time out of Nismo, being able to pull the Rolling Thunder back in response, because for a moment, the Guard nearly got through this threshold towards C-Long before that Rolling Thunder came through, but that little boop backwards kept them out of the mix, allowed some concussive effects to kind of wear off for M80 on the post plant, because otherwise those pistols could have been very deadly at that range. And we may have more fireworks here at C-Long. We're not done yet. We got a Hunter's Fury for both sides. They may be called out here.
On a solo mission here was Tex. Nothing behind him in the way of players, but there's that Hunter's Fury, and Trent gets so much value for it. A 1-for-1 trade, and look at the health bars. Everybody hit by that ultimate.
That was chaos. Knives, Hunter's Furies, people dashing into smokes. But in the end, like you mentioned, the 1-for-1 trade doesn't really tilt advantages towards either side here. Largely off of the fact that you've got a lot of time to play with your M80, and you still have a heap of utility that could be used to try to open up some sites. Things like the Paranoia, the fault line that's been recharged up, and an aftershock. So you've got tools, but your options may be limited to mid, and that's not what you want, as Jonah P and the rest of the Guard are pretty much in play to deal with this.
And they do buy out a little bit of utility. Swarm Grenade dealt with, however, so a push from C-Link could be imminent. M80 allowed to plant. Fault line will miss. Koala first up, 70 HP. I mean, Trent, you near perfect is all you have to be. You don't even need to find a head. A body shot will be enough. So 72 HP separates the Guard from finding their 11th round. Good flash, Nismo on the swing. Another body shot will land, and that secures a 3rd for Trent. This John will try and fight his way out of the trenches once more. That time, it will not be enough. The Guard, they find an 11th, a huge Hunter's Fury that allowed them to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a duel of the fates towards C-Long, who has paid tribute to the Valorant gods, because a lot of that came down to just sheer timings and near connections or misses on either side. So 11-9 now the call. Should be enough economy here for M80 to still purchase, but yeah, look how much reveal also comes through off of the utility from Trent, who was obviously a main factor towards the win condition in this round. But M80 do need to talk about it for a moment, and it's I think you'd be hard pressed to try to figure out what exactly has gone wrong here, because again, kind of like on a number of the rounds that we saw back in Pearl, these are all been winnable rounds on either side's perspective, and no one's underperforming here. So it's not like anyone's not finding value, which was one of the kind of downsides towards map number 1 on Pearl for the side of M80. So this is maybe just a commitment call. Like, do we need to try to finesse, maybe try to give a bit of a harder fake one direction, try to pull defense with a little bit more utility spending at the beginning, because they're not really being overly contested off of the barriers dropping, but the playoff of trying to get a contest or a contest-free plant into a post plant has not necessarily been a smooth transition for M80 in these last couple of rounds.
Man, I mean, kills aren't everything quite clearly, as M80 sitting pretty comfortable as a handful of kill leaders for themselves as we come out of attack and into attack, which at the very least will give the players a bit more time to talk things over. They've yet to deal with that Killjoy utility out towards B, which has been a good bit of stall. That shock dart that they've been firing off hasn't been landing, and we've seen Xander teleport into that nanoswarm a couple of times.
Sure.
So then you're walking away out of that one, having to replant later with only 50 HP. So yeah, a lot to be discussed, as it seems like M80 as a team are having some technical difficulties.
And just to kind of piggyback off that point, that's also where you really feel the impact of a strong Sentinel player like Net. And maybe that is something, like Dust was mentioning, was being missed when they were playing on Fractured, going Sentinel-less and trying to use the Viper more as a Sentinel role. So there are a lot of, macro considerations beyond just this particular map in this particular round 21 that, will be thought about, I think, in the future. But, I think the thing too about this is not just outside of the fact that M80 have had maybe a tough time tracking down where Net's utility is. We really haven't seen them put too much force over towards the A side of the map either yet. So, I mean, maybe outside of a couple of lobby plays and a couple of feints here and there where they're trying to put a little bit of pressure, we really haven't seen them try to isolate through sewer at all. And maybe that's something that you can kind of try to throw at the guard here, try to get that defense to move in a different way. But it still kind of feels like M80 are trying to rely largely on Qualinoob finding a first blood, or some key information that's tallied maybe from like Xander or someone who's able to kind of use a shoulder to try to figure out where exactly everyone's at before they make a commitment call on what they want to actually hit. So it's been kind of paradoxical, right? Like, it's either they're going to hard rush something, or they're going to take their every single second of time they have available to get as much information as possible and then late hit. And maybe there's an idea here to where you can try to kind of feel things out and try to go for something in the middle of the round where it's not necessarily like a floodgates, all 5 members are flooding, but a chance to try to control some of the space around that A part of the map and force the guard to have to put together a response. A lot of theory crafting, Tanner. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot, obviously, to talk about, a lot to discuss. Unfortunately, if you're M80, if you're not in person making these discussions during this technical pause, you're going to be on the phone doing so, because it sounds like they've all lost internet, which leads me to believe that they are together, and this could be an outage at the player house or the facility, whatever it may be. So it stings a little bit. Again, during these technical pauses, coaches can't get in the mix, but the players can chat amongst themselves. But I think M80 right now are dealing with bigger issues that are, we can't even play the game because of our internet being out, unfortunately. So I think for us here on the desk, you guys don't have to hear the I Hold Metro podcast, which, I mean, hey, that sounds like the moneymaker for me. We are going to jump away for an extended break in this as M80 try and figure things out in the technical side of things. We'll jump back into the game, and they have to figure things out on the server. So we'll see you guys when we see you. And all is right in the world once more. Internet has returned, and we jump back into the server where there was a lot to talk about Shift, but a lot of time to do so for M80, who trailed by 2 rounds.
No, dude, not like that. You come out of a tech pause with mid-window spamming at 10x? No. Oh, it's pain.
Yeah, it doesn't stop the push, though. M80 still sticking to the plan here. Dash onto the site. Tex trying to be the linchpin in all this one. Hunter sure to clear things out as M80 clean up a few kills of their own. Xander fights his way out of graffiti. Does it for 4. It doesn't matter. The opening pick the round is M80's.
Dude, that is... You thought for a second M80 were just going to try to feel things out through mid for a minute, but as soon as you lose that player, I think you're absolutely right. The set call was, we've got Hunter's Fury. Let's see if we can get some sort of a burst towards A and then block the connector contest with Hunter's Fury immediately upon trying to get a plant, and Xander just goes absolutely godlike. 4 kills in the round to make sure the guard never stepped foot back in, and now all of a sudden we've got the guard on a save and we're staring down the smoking barrel of a likely 11-11.
The ball doesn't lie. If we were meant to be tied up, it seems like M80 are going to get us there one way or another. Aftershock slow the push for now, but I mean there's just not much more to stop it. Xander picks up right where he left off, and the guard lose one of 2 sheriffs they brought into the round, and you have to assume the rest of the players will fall by the wayside as well.
Yeah. And even exit kills won't feel like much punish here if M80 have tons of economy to play with. So, what an absolutely Jekyll and Hyde affair we just come out of. I mean, everyone's cooling their jets. We get to a position where we're on a long tech pause. First blood looks really clean for the guard, and now all of a sudden, flawless follow-up, and what looks good for possibly a Sheets flawless here in the round as well.
I think if you're Nismo, you need to go on the hunt here. Either another kill or another death. Get another orb towards that Rolling Thunder. Try and secure yourself. Another round for M80s. It is that Sheets flawless finally finds its way onto the board. I believe it's been M80 to find the majority of those in this series, and now we are all knotted up. Series point up for grabs here in this next round.
And since round 11, M80 have really taken control, and it started with those 2 very near post-plant retakes in the last 2 of the half. You got to keep in mind that the defuse that we saw in round 18 was barely a defuse. So, man, how interesting this match has been from start to finish, but now here in the late stages, it's down to who's going to flex first. You've got Tex on an operator, M80 looking to kind of field things out over towards garage. It's net in the way with utility to try to watch his back towards C long. The rest of the guard are stacked heavy in towards mid. A lot of utility could be spent try to stall this M80 hit out.
Oh, I think both players spotted him. No way, Trent was thinking that he didn't get spotted. Koala pushes forward, he gets 3.
What? I mean, the paranoia that comes out was so key from Xander as well, because there was a moment there where Koala looked like he may have been a little bit stuck inside that smoke, but not to happen. Nismo backs up to get an orb. The plant will get him 1 off a Rolling Thunder, and M80 are looking good for 12 as Tex and Valen are backing off and conceding the round by the look of it.
Yeah, and it is going to be a yard sale of a buy. Look at the credits. Trent, Net, Jonah P, sticks and stones, slingshots basically is what they're going to be bringing into what is the last round of regulation.
Dude, the whiplash that I have right now.
Yeah.
Oh my. It's Xander in one round, Koala Noob in another, and if that doesn't just continue to ride the same storyline of how this season has been for M80, those 2 pop off, M80 win. It's just facts at this point. The last time these 2 teams played, Xander was not having a good time. Koala Noob was held to minimal effect. Map 1, the same can be said. And the chase down at the end allows Koala Noob to get to 4. Tex will still hold operator.
Match point.
I was going to say maybe, but he gets the final shot, and that's maybe a little bit of extra economy as you see the guards' credits, like you mentioned, are going to be bulldogs or rifles with light armors.
Man, and the heroics that we've seen, the clutch that we usually get from the guard seemingly have all just escaped them as we round our way out here. Map 3, last round of regulation, and very fitting, obviously, for the guard to take a timeout here, not only to figure out what's going on with this M80 attack, but how you're going to balance your economy. Just give yourself an extra few seconds to figure out what bits of utility you can bring into this round and how you can do it, knowing that it's probably light shields for the majority of these players.
And you're going to be facing down, again, Nismo's 1 off of a Rolling Thunder. And there's not going to be a lot that the guard is going to have to be able to counter that in terms of not just ultimates, but how do you retake, off of a Rolling Thunder that could push you completely off of a site? I don't know. There's a lot of things to think about here in this timeout. especially considering the fact that, I mean, M80 have looked dominant in the first 30 seconds of the last handful of these rounds. You've also got a lockdown at the ready, so I guess excuse me for a moment because I didn't realize how close their number of members were towards their ultimate, so there will be an opportunity for lockdown and Rolling Thunder on the other side. Hunter's Fury is also pretty close for Trent here. It's going to be Bulldogs, a Vandal, and one Operator. That's what the guard are looking to get to overtime with.
I mean, in the face of adversity here, M80 work their way back into it. 1 round the lead, but it's the most important round to have. And you see, coming out of that timeout, neither of these teams want to give up too much.
It's actually really interesting to see Jonah P is actually playing on the site deep. If a Rolling Thunder comes across, he would have to gut check, pull his own. Same could be said about Net with the lockdown. This seems to make me think that the guard, if they even catch a whisper of a hit towards A, they're going to hit one of these 2 ultimates, try to gain themselves some space. So this little feel out towards C could be pretty crucial, try to move this guard defense around a little bit. But no, the focus with the spike will come towards A. And now it's just down to, if they get that scent, who pops the trigger first for the guard to try to stop this hit.
Looks like fault line queued up from the attack here. Rolling Thunder actually sent into the attack, but we go 1 for 1. That holds it down, stunned up. It doesn't matter. Xander is still fighting forward. This guy flooding with confidence here as we trade. Fault line, Rolling Thunder, back and forth. The flashes are there. Lockdown as well. But this time, it's not looking great for the guard. They look to close things out. It's all up to Tex, but he has to head for the hills. An Operator, a 1v3, and a spike to defuse. Nobody gives him an angle. First up might be John Cutie, but he's playing so far off. And Tex, I mean, just the worst possible situation revealed by the alarm bot. Fault line at his feet. Who swings first? Who gives him anything? Shorty's out. He tries to deal with it, but it's Nismo to do it. It's M80. They battle back. They reverse sweep in the best of 3. They reclaim their spot at the top, and it's the bomb squad, baby.
It's just the way that they pull the reverse sweep off, I think, is going to be the most incredible portion of the entire of this story, because the first map was pretty lopsided. The guard was all over. M80 looked really disjointed. The utility was not layered to the same level that we normally expect. And even in the first moments on the second map, you start to think, hold on a second, like the guard are coming out with some fire on a map that we didn't have any expectations or predictions for. But the bounce back from M80, incredible. And I think it starts with Koala Noob. You look to Xander. He was a huge part to kind of keep a lot of those tight rounds going the way of M80, but the rest of the squad really did show up in a major way, shutting down any opportunity for the guard to get away with too much there on the final in Haven, especially considering the fact that the first 11 rounds, we were looking at the guard saying it feels like only a matter of time before they put this over the finish line. But man, that offensive half for M80, you can see why they like starting on that side of the map when they get the chance to.
And it's against all odds coming into this one, obviously having lost the series previously against the guard, but also we swapped sides 4-8. M80 weren't in the best of spots, and their internet goes out, and then the beginning of the next round after they get back, John Cutie dies immediately. But as you mentioned, Xander and Koala, I mean, the handshake between these two to close out the series and find themselves in the grand finals, I'm hoping, I mean, shout out to the other teams that join us, but we have to see this one again, right? This series tied at 1 apiece between both of these teams, and it's likely that we do see it again in the grand finals. Unfortunately, however, for Shift and I, we do not get to see, well, I mean, we'll be watching from the sidelines for this one. Upmind and Sully will be joining you guys here on the casting desk, and there is a lot to talk about after 24 rounds of Haven, so we're going to send things to our highlights for their desk on the other side.
One enemy remaining. One enemy. Spike planted.
Down. Grounded.
Conquer.
With eBay Refurbished, you have a choice of refurbished qualities to best fit your budget. Certified refurbished items are restored by the manufacturer to like new for up to 50% off. This reel was barely out of the box. Soon it will be back to working like new. Here's how it works. Every item is carefully inspected. Any imperfections are fixed by the manufacturer or manufacturer-approved vendor. Then it's tested to make sure it's working perfectly. Once it passes inspection, it's given the verified stamp of approval. Then repackaged with new accessories and shipped to its ultimate destination. With Certified Refurbished, you can shop with confidence because all our manufacturers go through a rigorous vetting process. And every purchase comes with an award-winning 2-year warranty, a money-back guarantee, and hassle-free returns. That's what makes it the smarter way to shop for premium brands. eBay Refurbished. Like new products, better than new prices.
If you felt cheated by the Week 5 matchup between Guard and M80 as it didn't go the distance as many of us anticipated it would, you definitely feel fulfilled now. That was the game we thought we were going to get in Week 5. Instead, it's in the upper finals here for the mid-season face-off. And it's M80 who squeak by the narrowest of margins, 13-11. Massive comeback there in that third and final map as well, Dust. We talked about it. M80 on the attacking side on the map is unreal and very scary to play against.
I mean, both teams were unreal on the attacking side, right? I mean, Guard got their 8 rounds in the first half on the attack as well, and then you got, M80 just doing a bit better, going 9. Both teams converted the exact same amount of post plants. What's the crazy difference between these two teams? This stat blew my mind. There's a 2-round difference on the scoreboard, okay? Remember that, all right? M80 out-fragged the Guard by 27 kills total for the match. They had 90 total kills to the Guard's 63. So it's kind of wild to think how close this game was, considering how heavy the fragging was from the M80 side of things. But it just goes to show that there's a lot of different ways to win this game. And the Guard certainly put up a great fight in the first half, but just could not slow down M80 in the second.
And that was what we were afraid of. Starry, we were talking about it coming into it. The power that Koala can have on a map like this, or even like Fracture in the previous series, given the flexibility of 3 sites here and the many entry points on Fracture in the previous map. We were expecting to see Koala have a very strong attacking half, and that's exactly what ends up happening.
Yeah, M80 did a good job setting up Koala to go in and get the kills needed, and also the amount of first bloods that Koala got on the attack side was also very impactful. It's so hard on Haven, especially defense side, to lose one person because there's 3 sites, and at that point, you're going to have to play retake on one and gamble the other. And I think M80 just did a really good job of really manipulating the rotations after just getting that first pick.
Yeah, and I hate to come down to just 1 round in a situation like this because that seems like a little shallow. But considering how close this game was, at one point we had a score of an 11-11 game, and it was a situation where it's M80 takes garage control towards C, and then Trent just kind of steps out. And there seemed to be some type of miscommunication or misunderstanding on if M80 had garage control yet or not. And when Trent steps out, Quad Noob just gets forward and gets a triple kill spray down inside the link area. And that one little fumble winds up making the world of difference because that's what leads M80 to close the game out from that point 2 rounds in a row to win the game. So again, obviously this match comes down to just more than that 1 round, but that came at such a critical moment. And those little itty-bitty miscommunications and mistakes mean so much in tight games like this. And you have to feel that that was something that really helped M80 finish with some momentum.
That's the nature of competitive play in anything, though. You make a mistake, and ultimately the hope is that your opponent doesn't capitalize. But a team that is as good as M80, and to be frank, a team that is as good as the Guard, they're not going to let those mistakes go unpunished. And the round in specific that he's talking about, there was a turret watching the hall from C site towards garage. Koala throws a smoke and gets in the window, and for some reason, it just didn't get calmed. So he steps out with a dart in hand, and it's like, oh no, 5 photos taken moments before disaster. And he starts to peek out, and Koala gets the first one, and then he flies out and somehow sprays down 2. The second, I think, was not accidental, but it was definitely a lineup that we weren't anticipating. So it ends up being a pretty backbreaking round as it puts the Guard on the back foot. Their money was really, really tough. and it ended up proving to be just too much for them to overcome. But Starry, I still got to give credit to the guard. I mean, this team played really well. The fact that they go to the third map with such a huge lead shows that they had on paper the solution to defeat M80. It just lands a little bit short.
Yeah, I think they did such an amazing job on the Haven attack side where they were able to get the first picks, kind of find out where the Jet was playing and go the other side. They never really gave Qual Noob the space to take, but obviously on the defense side, Qual Noob was just forcing those fights, forcing them to peek him and just taking the space from the guard. And I don't think the guard ever had like the economy to ever kind of catch up, while M80 was just racking up all their money every single time. Like even if they lost a round, they still had the next one to buy. And I think at the end of the day, the guard just lost in the economy game too, and they were never able to pick up momentum.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this whole matchup now as a whole that we have to consider is they're 1-1 now. When you think about the split, you know, the guard gets that kind of dominant 2-0, and 80 comes back down here in the upper bracket finals of the mid-season face-off. They get a tight series win over them, 2-1. Obviously, some different maps are involved. There's some adjustments being made, and it sets up like this really fun story now that these are the two top teams in challengers. Now, head-to-head, they're even Stevens, and now we get to see how that plays out, whether it be later on in this bracket, if they meet each other again in the grand finals, which is very possible, or, you know, just kind of what happens next split or the playoffs at the end of all of this, right? Because we know that these are kind of our two front runners to go all the way, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. So it's kind of fun that we get to see this rivalry kind of become not one-sided in the guard's favor. Like, now it's a more interesting story, I think.
We are going to throw things to our series highlights and a quick word from one of our sponsors. When we come back, we'll be jumping into the winner's interview with a member of M80. Stay tuned. The gaming deals at eBay are unmatched. They offer up to 50% off must-have brand new tech plus free shipping. They carry all my favorite brands from Razer to HyperX to Alienware and more. eBay is a one-stop shop for all my gaming needs. Check out the deals at pks.gg/eBay. Again, that's pks.gg/eBay. Guard in the third and final map in the series, 13-11, definitely delivered on all of the expectations as it proved to be a very close game, each team taking a single map before we made it to that final map. And as a result, we've got a member of M80 standing by for the post-match interview, none other than John QT, who's joining me here on the broadcast. Congratulations on a big win. Not only do you guys get to prove you're potentially the #1 team in challengers, you get revenge after your week 5 loss against the Guard.
Yeah, we did get our revenge. I feel like our match in the group stage, like mentally, we weren't like really going in to win. We knew like we just needed a few rounds to secure the first seed. So like mentally, we weren't like really going for the win. And here in playoffs, it's a bit different.
You guys have played a lot of Pearl throughout the first split, but it's been kind of a mixed map, and here you guys had a bit of a difficult time. What is it specifically about Pearl that went wrong today?
I think Pearl, we lost like 4 clutches, like 3 thrifties. It was like super unlucky, like that usually doesn't happen much to us. And we knew we just had to keep composure for the 2 next maps. Like we all said, stuff like that happened. We just need to regain and go next. I think we lost like 3 thrifties for like clutches.
Yeah.
So I think otherwise the map would have went different.
Yeah, I think in the second half alone, it was 2 thrifties. It was definitely brutal. It seemed like the guard was really punishing with those clutch scenarios. But then you end up going to Fracture, which is a map we haven't actually seen you guys play yet. With how well you played, why wait until now? Why haven't we seen you guys play Fracture during the group stages?
I mean, playoffs matters more than the group stage, right? So like
Sure.
keeping a map like that we can pull out in playoffs and people are not ready for it, where they don't have odds on us, is big, and it showed there. They weren't ready for that pick.
Now, when you get over to Haven, Haven is a map that you guys have a pretty strong success rate on, but your defense just, something about it just isn't working. You guys are seeming to struggle, having to make up a lot of those rounds on the attacking side. What is it about Haven that your defense maybe has some issues, but your attacking side is just lights out?
Well, in my opinion, Haven is like I think more attack-sided than defense. You have 3 sides. It's hard to play like all over the map. Sometimes you like play for B and C, the other team hits A, then you switch it up, they go fast B, fast C. It's a bit of a gambling map where you gotta play like either like flood, post plan and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of like that. But we also did a bunch of mistakes, and losing pistol doesn't help too. So that's why.
Yeah, that's fair. Looking specifically at Haven 2, you guys were down 8-4. So far in the series, 2 maps play out. Both times the team up 8-4 ends up winning. What were your thoughts like coming into that second half? How confident were you guys that you were going to turn that one around?
We were fairly confident. We just needed the pistol, a bit of momentum, and we'd like go with the side. I mean, 8-4, like down 12-4, we're all confident. We know that we can like pull it off and make a comeback. So, I mean, 8-4 is not that bad of a half, to be honest, especially on Haven attack side. So we were like more confident.
Fair. All right, this final question comes from the fan zone. This one comes in from Cypher, the player, not the agent. This one is, do you hope to see the guard again in the grand finals, really cement the rivalry now that each of you have won against each other?
Yeah, sure, why not? We're like 1-1. I mean, either way, any team we would play, we want to win. If it's guard, like G2, like any other team in lowers, OXG, or Moist. Yeah, I mean, it's good for the fans and the viewers, so the rivalry goes on, and we can see who's gonna overtake this time.
Well, you guys both came into the year as the number 1 and 2 seed by many people's predictions, and today's series proved that that is not necessarily decided who's the number 1 and who's the number 2, and maybe a grand finals rematch will help cement whatever anyone's opinion might be. I still think we need to see more of you guys playing each other, but congratulations on the win. I'll let you celebrate with the team.
Thank you, appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too. We have 3 maps that have played out already, potentially 6 more to go. It's a marathon day, people. Again, let's get flexible. Let's stretch out those joints because we've got Oxygen and TSM coming up after the break. Stay tuned.